We are moving now into chapter 7, and that is modernism from 1900 to 1960, the 20th century. What we can say about modernism and the impact or the circumstances under which this movement evolved, we look to world wars. First of all, World War One. During World War One, three artistic movements emerged. The first is a movement called Futurism. Futurism found its home in Italy, and it was the brainchild, if you will, of a man by the name of Tommaso Filippo Marinetti. Marinetti was a special kind of guy. Um, he, early on, as he was conceiving of this movement, he was in a terrible accident. He was knocked, I think, either off of his motorcycle or run off the road by motorcycles, wound up unconscious in a ditch. When he came to, he had the thought for futurism. The futurists believed that any effort to protect or honor antiquity, museums, libraries, art galleries, anything that held creative work from centuries past should be destroyed. The only thing that was relevant is what was happening in the present and beyond. The futurists were angry. As a matter of fact, Marinetti said that art can be nothing but violence, war, and injustice. That's it. They aligned themselves with the fascist dictator Benito Mussolini. In terms of theater, there wasn't a lot to be offered by the futurists. One type of theater was synthetic drama, where the futurists sought to take a full length play and reduce it to 2 minutes. Um, Benito Mussolini actually died before the popularity of or after rather the popularity of futurism came to an end. Futurism came to an end when its leader, Marinetti, passed away. There was no one else there to carry on this movement. And of course, Mussolini's reign of terror was coming to an end as well. The second movement that emerged during World War One is Dada. Dada is nonsensical art, art for no reason other than the fact that we call it art. Art, the art movement, Dada, was based in Switzerland because it was a neutral country. And the Dada artists wanted to get away from uh, Hitler and the impact of the war and all of it, many of them coming from Germany and Romania, settling in Switzerland. Um, as I said, Dada was nonsensical art. It was art because the artist said it was art. Examples of Dada are collage, kinetic sculpture. Um, in terms of theater, there was something called a chance poem, where people who attended the Cabaret Voltaire in Switzerland um, participated in what was known as a chance poem, where you would take a newspaper and cut words out of it and put them in a hat or a bag and jumble them up and pull them out one by one and read them. And you would have a poem. Um, the leader of the Dada movement was a band. One of the visionary leaders of the Dada movement was Tristan Tzara. He was very instrumental in promoting the movement. Another Dada artist in this country uh, was a man by the name of Marcel Duchamp. His most famous contribution to Dada and the art movement was a sculpture called The Fountain, which is a white ceramic urinal with just a little bit of, looks like a signature by someone named R, first initial R, Mutt, M-U-T-T, and the date 1916. Whatever that means. It is a work of art because Duchamp says it is. He had a collection of things called his ready-mades, and they were various things that you would find around a bicycle wheel, a snow shovel. He presented them in a very artistic way and called these works of art. If any of you have heard of the artist Banksy, Banksy is Dada. His work, his approach to art is very much influenced by Dada. Um, Dada influenced a lot of future artistic forms. The third movement that emerged during World War I is Expressionism. For the Expressionists, the outside world, individuals were being pressured. The pressure of the world was having an impact on the individual. Industrialization, the pressures of society, personal crises. The individual internalized this pressure and expressionism became the expression of the impact of that internalized pressure. Um, Expressionism was just that, the opportunity for human beings to express their feelings, their repressed emotions. Expressionism is a very emotional art form or a very emotional genre. Um, Along with that idea of the impact of society changing us internally and psychologically, came a movement called Surrealism. Surrealism was all about the impact of our repressed feelings and emotions, what is revealed to us in dreams. All of this had an influence on theater. Now, in terms of surrealism, we really see it in visual art and in some cases in film, but in visual art mostly. Take a look at the work of Salvador Dali, for example, probably the most famous surrealist painter. Between World War I and World War II in the US, we experienced the Great Depression from 1929 to 1939. As you can imagine, theaters closed primarily because there was no money to create theater or even to attend it. In 1935, the federal government of the US formed what is called the Federal Theater Project, and it was an effort to put theater artists back to work. And there were branches or offices of the Federal Theater Project in 40 states across the country. So it was a major effort that sought to, uh, provide employment opportunities for theater artists. Excuse me. Um, One thing that the Federal Theater Project inspired was something called the living newspaper. It was like documentary theater, traveling theater, where people would go and perform. actually providing information to people in the heartland, away from the cities on the East Coast, and would share information about what was going on in these cities, what was happening in farmlands or in farming communities across the country, the impact of the Depression overall. Uh, this effort by the government, the Federal Theater Project, lasted for only 5 years. By the end of the Depression, it came to an end, but not before the federal government realized that in some ways, this information that was provided through the living newspaper was in some ways very critical of the government and government practices. For that reason, the government frowned upon this and decided it was best to bring an end to the Federal Theater Project. But in its time, the Federal Theater Project did a lot to encourage employment, especially artists, African American theater artists at this time or benefited from the Federal Theater Project. In 1920, a movement called Epic Theater was introduced by a German theater artist named Bertolt Brecht. This was political theater. This was theater that was intended to motivate audiences to go out and change the world, to inspire people to recognize what was happening around them and to become a part of the effort to change it. He referred to this as theater of alienation because he felt that to really make an impact, to really change lives and inspire people, there had to be a distance that was created between the performance and the audience. The audience should never at any time forget that they are in a theater experiencing a performance. Um, Unlike the desired impact of something like a realistic play or an expressionist play, the goal was not to have the viewer experiencing some or to experience something um, emotional or have some sort of empathy for what was happening. These were hard facts. This was truth being presented to an audience to really truly inform them about society and the world and their place in society and the need to go out and, as best they could, change it. Another form of theater was something called theater of cruelty. And if epic theater was theater of alienation, theater of cruelty is theater of confrontation. The leader of the theater of cruelty movement is a man by the name of Antonin Artaud. Artaud believed that theater should be a means of forcing the audience to confront their repressed emotions, their fears, their everything that had an impact on them psychologically. The fear of confronting issues needed to happen, and theater was a vehicle for making this expression of these repressed emotional feelings happen. Was not a necessarily popular movement, certainly not as popular as Brecht's epic theater, but the movement was extremely influential. And because of the notion of the subconscious, this whole repressing of emotions, it was linked to surrealism, the movement we were talking about just a moment ago with the surrealist work of Salvador Dali. Antonin Artaud, as well as the French filmmaker Louis Buñuel and Salvador Dali collaborated on probably one of the most famous surrealist films called The Andalusian Dog. Some of us saw it during class. It is a film from the 1920s that it really explores this whole surrealist, dream-like, nightmarish nature of human beings.